Hello, everybody. Welcome to another Comic Source Comic Boom collaboration. This is your DC Spotlight for the week of March 15th, 2022. If you're looking for thoughts on the third chapter of War for Earth 3 or the third chapter of Trial in the Amazons, we did separate spotlights for those. So go and check those out. That being said, we still have 10 other books to talk about. So we're going to dive right in, starting with Blue and Gold, number 7. Story by Dan Jurgens. Phil Hester and Eric Gapster do the art for pages 4 through 19. Paul Pelletier and Norm Ratman do the pages art for pages 1 through 3 and 20 through 22. Chris Sotomayor on colors, Rob Lee on letters. This is issue 7 of 8. In terms of the art, yeah, I mean, I'll say what I always say when we get two wildly different art styles here, that it's frustrating that we didn't get one art team to do the whole thing. I don't mind Hester and Gapster's art. I don't enjoy it as much as the Paul Pelletier art because that's just more the type of art that I personally prefer. But either way, I would have been fine going either way. But having both styles is kind of, they don't compare favorably to one another. The other thing that's interesting about this book, so we got kind of the resolution of the story that had been told in the first 6 issues. And so it's an 8 issues mini. So now we get so we had a 6-issue story. Now we're getting a 2-issue story. Yeah. It makes me wonder if this was originally supposed to be an ongoing and Jurgens scripted it that way with because that's what it would have been, right? Like you figure when they release this as a trade, it's going to be just an oversized trade with all 8 issues. So, but if it was supposed to be an ongoing, then Jurgens might have been like, okay, here's a 6-issue arc that goes in a trade. Let me start the next 6-issue arc. But no, we're getting a 2-part Booster Gold or Blue Beetle story, rather, because we have the Jaime Reyes version of Blue Beetle who showed up at the end of last issue. And we finally find out who is kind of behind pulling the strings with this other villain who shows up, who's a new villain who shows up in the issue. And it turns out it's this guy called Black Beetle. And it's this guy called Black Beetle who's sent this, I don't even know what to call him, null effects. He kind of looks like a dog, for lack of a better term, dog with some horns. And he kind of sets him out and uses him as bait to get Booster and Blue Beetle out there fighting because he apparently in some way has influenced the Jaime Reyes version of Blue Beetle. And that doesn't pay off in this issue. I imagine it'll pay off in the next. So yeah, it jumps around a little bit. And the fact that it's going to have to be wrapped up in only 2 issues, I think is why it feels a little quickly paced, I'll say. It's not bad by any reason, and it doesn't feel choppy. And I think Dan Jurgens is an excellent writer. And when he's got to accelerate a storyline, he's able to do it and have it still make sense. But the fingerprints of that are still going to be there. And the fingerprints of that are here. But it does work because he still gives us the fun kind of banter back and forth between Booster and Blue Beetle. And we still get the funny little one-liners from the social media guys and whatnot. So, I do sort of wish that this wasn't ending next issue and we would have got a full 12 issues. Could we have gotten this arc, fleshed out a little more? Or if Dan had known early enough, he could have given us 4 issues of the first story arc that we got with that alien race that was saying that Earth belonged to them because they came and planted a flag before humanity even existed on Earth, and then gotten 4 issues of this. Because this Black Beetle character is interesting to me, and he's got a cool looking costume. So we've got Jaime Reyes and Ted Kord, both Blue Beetles, legacy character, and we're gonna have to wrap this up in 1 issue. I know not that many people care about Blue Beetle, but I think he's an underrated character. I remember picking up his issue number 1 when it came out in '86 with that. I think it was written by Len Wein. I just remember it was Paris Cullen on art, and I loved it from the beginning. I'm not as big of a fan of the Jaime Reyes Blue Beetle only because I like my Blue Beetle with gadgets instead of powers. Um, but either way, I am enjoying this, and I do wish we had a little more of this second story. But I expect Jurgens to wrap it up really, really well. And hopefully the reason that Pelletier and Norm Ratman only did a couple of pages of art in this one is because they have them given us an awesome finale, maybe even oversized for issue number 8, where they do all of the art. So, and then Ryan Sook cover is fantastic as well, with Blue Beetle in the background going, Booster, what are you doing? Like you're betraying me, going for the new blue. So yeah, I mean, it was a fun issue. But yeah, I wonder about the kind of the logistics. It's so strange to focus, because it really felt like the sixth issue could have been the last issue. You just take out that Jaime Reyes appearance, and it's just over. So now having Jaime Reyes show up, but maybe I don't know. Maybe issue 8 will circle back around to and tie in with that first arc with maybe Rip Hunter will show up. Maybe that alien race will show back up, going, "Hey, we know that you tried to trick us." Who knows? Or
Yeah.
maybe we'll just get all of Black Beetle. I guess we'll see. What are your
I,
thoughts, Rocky?
yeah, I kind of wanted Rip Hunter back again. I kind of like that the fact that he's Booster Gold's son. That hint, and I thought we were gonna get some more of those hints of that, but I didn't mind this issue. I thought it was funny. Jamie Reynes, Jamie Reynes, Anus,
Reyes, yeah,
Reyes.
Reyes, yeah.
Not he didn't seem all that excited when he was asked to join the blue and gold team. I don't know when he said wow. I don't know if he meant wow in a good way or wow more like wow. Wow. I don't know if he was that excited when he was asked to join the team, but yeah, it was okay. I mean, and a black beetle. Of course, you got to have a black beetle. Kind of a little bit cliche, but this is kind of a comedic take on things, and even Nulaflex was another character at the beginning. Nulaflex, quite a odd, again, like give Jurgens credit. He you can tell he's having a lot of fun scripting this stuff, and I find it's interesting comparing Dan Jurgens to Mark Russell. I think Mark Russell sometimes always has to throw in some political parody, whereas Dan Jurgens is better at keeping things more comedic without necessarily having to go the political route. Uh, which is both are good. I mean, both are entertaining in their own right. I'm not criticizing one or the other. I just sort of kind of interesting. I have a preference. I like Dan Jurgens a little bit more less generalized sort of parody and humor. And plus, he seems that Jurgens has a handle on these characters so well. For some reason, I think I compare this a little bit to One Star Squadron. And even though I really like the characters in One Star Squadron, I like the writing on this and the humor in Blue and Gold better. But no, I think it's good, and it's interesting. Only one issue left. It does kind of feel. I agree with you that he's Jurgens is trying to cram a lot into like 8 issues, but he's planting some seeds. I think that I personally would like to see this issue. I would like to see 24 issues of this series, and I want to see more. And I know I already want to see more than one issue, and we only got one issue left. So I mean, who knows? I mean, all these writers on these miniseries, you got to think that they're probably hoping to get hoping to get some attention of editorial, because I know DC sales maybe are a little hit and miss right now. So probably everyone's vying for a little bit of attention.
Yeah, exactly. And plans change, and maybe it was initially going to be 12 issues, and then they had to scale it back to 8, or maybe it's supposed to be an ongoing. Who knows? Can't really say. Okay, up next we have Catwoman number 41. This is from writer Tinny Howard, Nico Leone on art, Veronica Gandini on colors, Tom Napolitano on letters. Yeah, curious what you thought of this one, Rock.
Oh man, bad timing caught me just when I was drinking some Coke. Uh,
Sorry.
no, that's my fault. I should know better. I What a pleasant surprise to see Onyx here. I haven't seen her in a long time. Kudos, I should give a shout out to one of the variant covers here. I think it's a Jenny Frison cover where she seems to do her own rendition of Zoe Kravitz's Catwoman. Quite a really nice cover with the Batman movie. Which, by the way, I did the Batman movie review, and I even though I kind of gave it a little bit of, I had fun with it. I had more of a rant. I actually enjoyed the Batman movie, even though if you listen to my review on my channel, I very much sort of speak against it, only because I just do. Sometimes I ranted against it, but I encourage people to go and see it because it's a DC movie, and DC needs some love. It needs some love. In any event, um, I the Teenie Howard. I almost forgot her name. Teenie Howard here. I'm enjoying this. I'm enjoying this tale of the mafia here. I think she's weaved together. She's brought together some very interesting characters, and the idea of like the son of a mafioso who's gay, and the another person in the mafia who's like the right hand man. Is having an affair with him. I mean, you got two lovers. You can't be gay in the mafia. Father doesn't even know his son is gay. Catwoman knows he's gay. The son hates his father, but wants to rule the mob, but kind of doesn't. Meanwhile, you got the other guy whose loyalties are he loves the son of the mafioso, but he wants to become the Godfather. So you got all these machinations that are going on at the same time, and all these motives, and you're questioning all the characters' motives. And then you got this new character, Flamingo, with the pink motorbike showing up, and Onyx. Uh, I think Teenie Howard has done a good job. There's a lot of moving parts, a lot of moving plots in this, and for me, I think it works. I've noticed, because I read other people's reviews and I watch other reviews. This isn't. I think, dare I say, I think some reviewers have been, pretty harsh on this title. Some have criticized it for being a little heavy on the exposition, maybe a little heavy on the writing. I actually don't mind it. I think it sort of pulls me into the story, and I actually appreciate some of the I like being spoon fed a little bit, especially since these are all new characters. It's not like this isn't in three short issues. We're getting access to a lot of information, and I feel I'm enjoying this. This feels this feels like a mafia tale, and if you're a fan of Genevieve Valentine's run, where Iko Amanawa, I think her name was, when Catwoman was, all that hype about her being bisexual, that was her lover at the time. Great covers by Jay Lee. That entire run, it's just a beautifully gorgeous run of gorgeous covers by Jay Lee, and a really good storyline as well. It harkens back to that, and I'm really curious to see how this is going to end. Is the son of the Godfather here? Is he going to end up being killed? He wants Selina's protection. Selina wants to protect him. He clearly needs protection because he's kind of a softie, and he's not really meant for the mafia life. And yet at the same time, he's clearly got some daddy issues. And then Selina, one thing that doesn't quite fit for me though, Selina seems to have this attraction, arguably, to this new character I can't remember his name. He's the guy in that white suit.
Valmont.
Yeah, what's his name?
Valmont.
Valmont. Yeah, and I think he's gender neutral, or he's gender what do you call it? Non-binary maybe. Because she wasn't sure if he was male or female, and there's almost kind of a hint that she's kind of attracted. Onyx sort of picked up maybe an attraction between Selina and this Valmont. So that's kind of weird. I don't know if I never really bought into that. So that was a little bit of a miss for me, because I don't know how you could go love Bruce Wayne and be in love with Batman, and then all of a sudden, I don't know, like, to each their own. You can love your own. I'm not really buying into that aspect of the story, but the rest I'm really enjoying. So what do you think?
Yeah, I'm enjoying it, but I mean, I don't want to sound like I'm nitpicking, but I can see why people might have a problem with it, because I think structurally there are some weaknesses. Um, and based on the fact that it's pretty early on, I would be hesitant to say there are, plot issues as well, because I don't really know exactly what Tinny Howard is trying to do yet. If she's trying to tell a mob story, she's doing a good job of that. And I think if people are like, well, it's too exposition heavy, here's the thing, right? Tinny Howard has put a lot of players on the playing field. There's a lot of moving parts here. We got Valmont, we got the five families, we have Onyx in this particular issue. So there's a lot of characters. If you don't give us exposition, if you don't put us inside of Selina's head, it's not going to feel like a Catwoman book, because Catwoman, I think if you counted the panels, I don't know that she shows up in the most panels in this issue. You know what I mean? Like, so is this really a Catwoman book if she's not on the page more than anybody else? So I kind of feel like she has to be, we need to get inside her head. We need to be um, hearing from her. Otherwise, that it might not feel enough like a Catwoman book. So, you can argue whether that's a failure of the way she laid out the story or not, because I think Dario, the son of the Dawn, probably shows up on more panels than anybody else. So, but I can see where people are coming from if they say that. The other, so that's could possibly be a structural issue, or it may just be for this first story until she gets things established, and then it may focus more on Catwoman going forward. So I don't necessarily see that as a weakness or something bad about it. It's just kind of the reality of the way the story is structured for now. Where I do think there is a weakness is in the transitions from like not from one panel to the next, but from one scene to the next. So if we're going from, Valmont and Onyx fighting as Selina looks on at the docks, to then Onyx and Selina, walking down the street, drinking coffee and talking, or from that scene of Onyx and Catwoman to Dario trying to blow up a building. It's those transitions, I think, that aren't being done as well as they could, because the story feels choppy to me at times, and it's not even something I can necessarily put my finger on all the time. Where the story isn't flowing as well as it probably should. So I love the things that are happening, but I'm not sure where the rough edges need to be smoothed out exactly. But the art by Nico Leone is fantastic. The color work um, is, I mean, I can't say enough about how fantastic the color work is from Veronica Gandini. Just really bright, like neon colors that are really working. So I'm enjoying this. I think it does have room for improvement. And all I'll say about Valmont, I'm very intrigued by Valmont. He does remind me a lot, and maybe it's his look. He's all white and he doesn't have eyes, so he reminds me a lot of Ghostmaker in that way.
Yeah.
Um, so I find him to be an intriguing character, and yeah, we'll see where this is going. I'm enjoying it. All right, up next we have Batman the Night #3. This is written by Chip Zdarsky. Art is by Carmine Di Giandomenico. Colors by Yvonne Placencia. Letters by Pat Brosso. This is part 3 of 10. And remember, this is the story where Bruce is out. He's in Europe. He's training to become Batman. So he's very young. He's very inexperienced. And he was teamed up with this French thief. And they went to steal this jewelry box. Come to find out, the jewelry box is filled with teeth for a serial killer called the Foundling. And they didn't know what they were stealing, and now the serial killer is after them. But before they can even sort of figure out exactly what's going on, before Bruce and this woman can figure out what's going on, our old pal Henri Ducard shows up. He's been hired by Alfred to find Bruce Wayne, but not to retrieve him, just to find him, just to make sure he is where he is. So through Henri's help, and because he knows this female thief, and they end up getting the drop on this the serial killer. Bruce is the one that ends up finding him and confronting him, and we see that anger over his loss and his trauma is still very much there. He almost beats the guy to death when he finally finds him, and this woman has to stop him. Lucy is her name. She has to literally pull Bruce off this serial killer before before Bruce punches him to death. So again, really interesting, great look at what what Bruce went through or is going through or did go through, however you want to phrase it, to become Batman. I didn't expect this story to be like this. When I heard it was 10 issues, I thought it was going to be like more just action with Bruce going from place to place to place. Hey, he's, each issue he's being trained by a different person or maybe two people. And it was going to be a little more um, of a kind of a higher level view. This is very focused and very emotional. Um, so I don't think we're going to get as much of the training. Which when I heard this was happening, the series, I was like, oh great, we'll finally get a definitive story because I very much trust Chip Zdarsky to do that. Give us a definitive story of Bruce was here trained by this person, then here trained by this person. That is not the point of the series. The point of the series is it seems like after the first three issues is more of an emotional journey for Bruce and how he prepared to become Batman in that way, because it's so clear in these first three issues that in a way he's very lost, even though he has an idea of what he wants to become eventually, how he wants to um, channel his trauma to protect people and to make sure nobody ever has to, lose their parents the way he did. That's in his mind, his own self motivation for doing this, but he doesn't know how to get there emotionally. He doesn't know if he's ever going to be able to get there, and he's realizing sort of his shortcomings. And when he reaches out to Alfred and calls and leaves a message, because again, Alfred hired Henri Ducard to go hunt him down. He says as much on the phone when he leaves the message for Alfred. He's like, I I need to do this, but I shouldn't have left without telling you. I need to figure things out on my own. I can't just have you taking care of me forever. I need to be able to take care of myself. Um, and I don't know, I don't know the path that I'm on. But I got to figure things out. So yeah, that's a far cry from the Bruce that left Gotham angry, believing that he had all the answers and all he had to do was go acquire physical skills and then he could, start his war on crime. So, yeah, this is much more of an emotional journey rather than, a physical, hey, how did Bruce acquire the skills that he needed? So, once again, leave it to Chip Zdarsky to give us a very emotional tale with a lot of poignant moments and really impactful emotional journey for a character. So, what do you think?
Uh, I really enjoyed this, and you know what? It reminded me a lot of there was a lot of consistency in the character portrayal between this Henri Ducard in this issue and the way Tom Taylor scripted Henri Ducard in his series Batman: The Dark Knight by Tom Taylor. Henry Ducard here, there's a reason why Bruce Wayne wanted to get trained by Henry Ducard. In fact, in almost every incarnation, in every iteration of Bruce Wayne being trained at some point in his life, the name Henry Ducard always comes up. And Henry Ducard here is brilliant. He's a genius. He's a very intelligent detective, and Chip Zdarsky does an excellent job of just Henry Ducard, being able to find Bruce Wayne right away, being able to identify right away, know that the foundling was a serial killer right away. He was 10 steps ahead of everybody, and it's very obvious here. When the juxtaposition between Henry Ducard, who is almost Batman level in his stealth and his intelligence and in his strategic thinking, and the almost complete incompetence of a young Bruce Wayne. Bruce Wayne. It almost annoyed me how Bruce Wayne, when there's a scene where he's in a cafeteria and Andre Ducard keeps telling him, "Quit! Don't look over at the fountain. Like, don't look over at the guy that that his female partner is talking to. Don't make yourself obvious." But he kept looking over. He kept looking over it, and eventually they were compromised because of Bruce Wayne's abject incompetence of just not being able to keep a low profile in something as simple as a restaurant. And of course, Henry Ducard ends up getting shot because of it, taken off the playing field. And near the end, I thought it was very interesting how Chip Zdarsky, sort of the idea that the true target of the foundling was the one orphan who was happy. And that's interesting because Bruce Wayne is an orphan, but Bruce Wayne is dark and repressed and unhappy, and of course going to become Batman, and he's mentally screwed up. And there's all kinds of orphans out there. Not all of them are mentally mentally healthy, I suppose. But the one who is ends up being one of the victims. And I thought there's so many themes here that are played with, and I thought it worked quite well. And like you said, this is definitely a Bruce Wayne that's learning. He's frankly incompetent, maybe even annoyingly so to some respects, but he's supposed to be because he's not Batman yet, and so that's what you ought to expect, and he knows it. And of course, the good relation, his relationship with Alfred at the end, and there's a great scene at the end there with Alfred on the phone. He's clearly worried about him, and of course, the woman, the older woman, the older quasi sort of allusion to Catwoman in Paris there, kissing him goodbye, knowing that he's meant for different things. It was very well done. Well done by Trip Sardasky. I'm really looking forward to seeing where he takes this. I'm glad this is 10 issues. I wish it was 12.
Yeah, I wish it was an ongoing because again,
Yeah.
when I heard he was doing this, I'm like, okay, okay, and I want to see all the people that he trained with, but this is something different, but it has value in a different way. So, okay, up next we have Detective Comics number 1057. We're at the penultimate issue, next to last issue of The Tower. This is part 11. Mariko Tamaki is the writer. Amin K. Nahulapan is the artist. Jordi Belair does colors. Ariana Mayer on letters. And then we have the backup story that's written by Matthew Rosenberg that has art from Fernando Blanco. Jordi Belair does the colors on this as well. Rob Lee on letters. So, um, yeah, the only thing that I kind of, I don't want to say that it bugs me, but I talked a little bit about it last issue where Batman has shown back up, so he's fully engaged now in this fight. And Rocky and I both said how we didn't miss him when he hasn't been in the pages of Detective Comics, and I thought the rest of the Bat family was doing just fine without him. And he comes in and sort of, as the big brother or father figure to kind of save the day, if you will. And he doesn't completely take over, but he's very present. And I don't know, I feel like much like I didn't really need the Scarecrow, I don't really need Batman here. Like
Uh,
just give me the rest of what we were. Just keep fleshing out what we were already getting would have been fine with me. But it's not bad by any stretch of the imagination. The art I've talked about, you start off with Yvonne Reese, everything's going to feel like a step down. But Nahulapan's art is very cinematic, and he does a great job with the action. And his transitions from panel to panel are very, very well done. It's a bit of a muted palette when it comes to the colors, but again, it suits his art style. So yeah, I'm enjoying this. It feels like this is going to wrap up in a very satisfying way. Um, but yeah, I just wonder if I wouldn't, at the end of the day, if I wouldn't have enjoyed it more had it just ended up being a Bat family story without Batman himself. So, um, but yeah, I thought it was a solid issue, and I'll talk about the backup in a second. But what do you think of the main here, Rock?
I actually I enjoyed this. It was like I say, it's winding down. It was, it's sort of like we kind of already know where this is gonna lead, and I was, but there was one thing here that actually makes me intrigued about this issue, and I got some open questions, and it's because Mayor Nagano's wife ends up wearing Medusa the Medusa mask, or Psycho Pirate's mask, I guess, whatever you want to call it, and that's interesting. She's there's a time jump because she's talking. Mary Nagano's wife's talking to a therapist, reflecting back on her situation, and uh, last issue ended where Anna Volshin ends up shooting. We thought maybe Mary Nagano's wife was going to be shot and killed by Anna Volshin, or maybe Psycho Pirate would be killed. It was unclear, but it ends up that Psycho Pirate was just shot in the arm, so it was definitely not a big deal. But it's interesting that Mary Nagano's wife ends up wearing the mask. We don't know what she does with that mask, but it's presumably, I'm guessing that she probably won the day, or maybe did she use the mask for good or for bad? Because we know she was, when she's actually on day 67, because we know day 24 is when the shit hit the fan. day 67, Maragano's wife's in therapy. Is she in therapy as a patient at Arkham Tower, or is she just, is uh, it makes me wonder, what did she do? How does Marinagano's wife use uh, Psycho Pirate's mask? And is this a new character? Is this a new Psycho Pirate? Because we're getting a whole slew. Let's face it, DC's, you know, diversifying their character plate, and it's, none of these characters are the character anymore. It's all about legacy. Every character, Roger Hayden isn't Psycho Pirate. Psycho Pirate is a legacy, so anybody can be Psycho Pirate. You just wear the mask. Anybody can be Batman. Anybody can be Wonder Woman. Anybody can be Superman. I'm being a little bit cynical, yes, a little bit tongue in cheek there, but it's and there's nothing wrong with that. It's just interesting to see if I think if we're gonna get a new Psycho Pirate, I think that there's some potential there if we go outside Roger Hayden, because she does look pretty cool. I gotta admit, she looks pretty cool in the mask, Marigano's wife. So I'm really interested to see if this is just going to be a temporary thing moving forward or not. Because, Roger Hayden, a Psycho Pirate, I mean, bear in mind, this is a guy that worked alongside Darkseid at one point. So it'd be kind of weird to see somebody else wear the mask, but that's what's happened. But I'm intrigued. But I'm more interested, and I'm sure you are too. I'm really curious to hear your thoughts on the backup, which is the favorite part of the comic for, I think, both of us, Jace. The Matthew Rosenberg tale of this mysterious redhead that we still don't know who he is.
Yeah, one last thing on that main story. You mentioned it, and I did notice that it was a big time jump, like you said, day 67. But the thing I didn't like about the time jump was it's still called Arkham Tower. Day 67, it says Arkham Tower. Should it say
Yeah.
Pennyworth Tower right there? Didn't like that.
Yeah.
The backup, I'm interested, I'm intrigued, but the redhead doesn't show up. I don't know what the hell's going on. We only have one issue of this left. It even says at the end, after the credits, to be concluded. So, what is going on? Who's pulling the strings? Is it the Joker that shows up here? I don't know. I have no clue what Rosenberg and Blanco are doing, but I'm here for it. The action and the art are fantastic. I can't wait. I'm much more interested in going back and rereading all 12 parts of this in one sitting than I am the tower, or the Shadow of the Bat story about Arkham Tower.
Yeah.
Now, would that be a different uh, outcome if Batman didn't show up and it still focused on the kind of the Bat family? I think maybe it would, because it just bugs me that Batman is here to save the day. We've had that story so many times, as Batman as the savior. But the mystery and the way that Rosenberg and Blanco have built this story makes me very curious to go back and read from the beginning with the knowledge of how it all ends. I think it's going to be a fantastic read to read it all in one kind of as one narrative. So,
Yeah.
what were your thoughts?
Maybe I'm wrong, but the impression I got from the story is that it's this redhead. Even though you're right, he doesn't appear in the story, but flowing from the last story, he's this involved the Batman suspects it's the Joker that was responsible for shutting off the water flowing through Gotham in the underground water tunnels. But in fact, it was shut off in order to facilitate the movement of people. And I think it's that redhead who's got his own community. He shut the waters down so he could move people from around Gotham, but underground, because he's got a motive. He's got something going on. So he's got his own thing. He's got his own powers in play. And of course, Killer Croc works with that redhead, and he's got his own little community of supporters of his group. And remember, last issue in the backup, Batman let the kid go because the kid during No Man's Land was just looking for food, and he was an older kid with a beard, and so he wasn't really a bad guy, but he was just kind of he was an anti-hero, but probably closer to hero than bad. And so Batman sort of let him go because he knew he had a rough life. And now this kid is shutting the water off, but he seems to have a noble purpose of like moving people around. So, but exactly why, we don't know yet. We got one more chapter to go. And I think only one more chapter, because this is chapter 11. So there's 12 chapters of this. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens. And and again, who the hell is this kid? It's good. This is, man, Matthew Rosenberg's, what a great job of building suspense, because I mean, we got an Arkham Tower story, which I think is fairly, it's decent. I'm more entertained by the Arkham Tower story than I was Fear State in terms of the momentum of it anyway. And for this backup feature to sort of pull me out of the main story and into this small backup is quite an accomplishment. So kudos to him, and the art is just fantastic.
Yeah, agreed, 100%. Okay, up next we have Justice League number 74. This is League of Chaos Part 3, finishes off Brian Michael Bendis' run. And then issue 75, Joshua Williamson's going to come in and kill the Justice League, and then that'll lead into Dark Crisis. So the art on this issue is by Simon Krasinski, Emmanuel Lupacchino, and Waid von Grabinger. So Lupacchino does some of the pages. When she does the pencil work, von Grabinger inks her, and the majority of the issues focused on the Justice League Dark, and that's where Simon Krasinski handles the art. Krasinski colors himself. When we get the Lupacchino pages, Hi-Fi handles the coloring, and the letters are by Josh Reed. So I don't know. This felt a little paint by the numbers in terms of the ending here, Rocky. What did you think?
Well, first I want to say that I love the cover, that Black Adam cover, and I do believe we should both give a shout out to Christopher Priest. It's been formally announced, Christopher Priest, and I can't remember the artist. You remember the artist that's working with him? That was,
Yes, it's Rafa Sandoval.
right. So that's great. Congratulations to Christopher Priest. I'm looking forward to that. That news is just released, and so to Black Adam fans with the movie coming out, I want to build up some DC spec. Let's heat up these Black Adam comics on the spec market. God forbid Marvel gets all the love. So I just wanted to give a shout out to Christopher Priest and Sandoval, and check out the comic book news websites. They give you little teasers if you want to know what it might involve. So I just wanted to say that first and foremost. This cover, I really like this cover. Bang up cover. Black Adam just looks awesome. Now, as for the story, I agree with you. It's a little bit paint by the numbers. This is Naomi kind of centric. This is kind of a lot of dialogue here. I hate saying typical Bendis, because I'm not even trying to be critical when I say that. It's just that there's a lot of pomp and circumstance, and a lot of, dialogue's better. But at the end of the day, we get Naomi that defeats Xanadoth. And the reason why Naomi defeats Xanadoth is Xanadoth, through various points throughout this entire issue, through multiple dialogue exchanges that don't really move the narrative, quite frankly, is eventually it's discovered that Naomi has the energy that Naomi uses, and this was not revealed. This was revealed for the first time that I'm aware of. Naomi's power set, her energy that she uses, enhances magic. So for someone like Superman, who is impaired by magic, Naomi's power set, Naomi's energy can actually enhance and heighten magic. And so because of that, very conveniently and interesting, I think that's an interesting thing. We don't know much more about Naomi's power set other than that. We know she's from another world, another quasi-multiverse dimension of some kind. And we know that because Xanadoth is this Lord of Chaos, or that was this unknown Lord of Chaos that's coming back that could destroy the world, with Naomi enhancing the power of Dr. Fate and Zatanna and all the powerful magical bearing heroes of the Justice League and Justice League Dark, that's how they defeat Xanadoth. And so it's very sort of, it feels a little bit Deus Ex Machina, although it isn't. It's not. It's explained, but then it's one of those things where we never really knew anything about Naomi, and then it feels like, oh, guess what? Naomi can enhance magic, and like, oh, well, that's good to know. And then of course Naomi is always played, and I know she's young, but she's always played as, oh, I can do that. Oh, I'm new. I'm like, it's just like she's the, it's like, at some point I want Naomi to maybe accept the fact that she's got superpowers, and, at some point, she's coming across at times like a little bit like an airhead. Like maybe kind of accept it already. I mean, and then at the end, I suppose in fairness to Bendis, we reviewed Naomi Volume 2, Issue 1, and only 3 weeks have passed since she got her powers. And so presumably this issue came before Naomi Volume 2, Issue 1. So maybe if she's only 3 weeks into her power set, I should be more forgiving when she is always saying, I'm new here, I'm new here. She says it with Justice League versus Legion of Superheroes as well. I mean, it's getting a little bit tiresome already. However, so be it. But this is a nice build up leading into well, no, frankly, this is a Naomi issue. This is giving us, for Naomi fans, we're getting more clues about Naomi. And so if you're a Naomi fan, I would strongly recommend Justice League 74 because frankly, it's written by the same person or a co-writer of Naomi, Bendis, and this does give you more information about Naomi. And I think, and frankly, this is a speculator alert as well. This would be the first time that Naomi's power set of enhancing magical powers is revealed. So it might even be something on the speculator market. Again, I always chuckle when inside of my head when I say something speculator alert for a DC comic because nobody cares about DC spec. Because I watch spec channels all the time because I'm also a speculator, but I'm alone in the wilderness because nobody cares about DC Comics on the spec market. It's all MCU and Marvel. It's like Marsha. But anyways, so yeah, guys, spec on Naomi. Why not? Have some fun. And yeah, even Batman gives Naomi some props here at the end, which isn't surprising. But I'm just, I'm kind of glad it's over. Is it, does it sound weird to say I'm looking forward to the Justice League dying? Next issue. I mean that in the nicest way. What do you think?
Yeah, get some excitement. I mean, it's not just that Williamson's killing the Justice League, but it's not like, the new generation is picking up the pieces and saying, okay, we'll form a new Justice League.
Yeah.
Or we're getting some Justice League Detroit. Like when these Justice League members die, there is no Justice League.
Yeah.
And that's next month. That's April that Justice League 75 comes out and they die. And then we have no Justice League in May, and then June, Dark Crisis starts, and there's no Justice League all throughout that event. So, yeah, it's you're right. This is a very Naomi-centric issue. It's been somewhat of a Naomi-centric story arc, which is fine. I was really taken aback when Batman's like, oh, this all happened, and it all happened within a week. I'm like, oh, okay. So like basically the entire run of Brian Michael Bendis on Justice League happened in a week. 6 months of comics basically. So, okay, comic book time, what are you going to do? That's the way it is. So yeah, I thought it was fine. It did wrap it up. It answered the questions that we had. I did sort of wish that the Simon Krodansky pages weren't colored so dark. I like the art, but it was colored so dark at times. It felt like it was a little hard. Like I get what they were going for, with the whole idea of this war against the Lord of this rogue Lord of Chaos, Xanadoth. But it felt so dark. It was kind of hard sometimes to tell what was going on. The other thing that Bendis did was he planted some seeds for Madame Xanadu that I could see him coming back at some point and picking those up. So that was interesting as well. Okay, let's go ahead and move on. Nightwing number 90, written by Tom Taylor. We have Geraldo Borges on art this time. Adriano Lucas is on colors. Wes Abbott is on letters. I thought the art was a little inconsistent. There are times, like when I first started reading it, I didn't even realize it wasn't Bruno Redondo because the art was really clean. But then later when the action starts, it gets a little more rough and the line weights get a little heavy, which it should go the opposite in my mind. Like line weight should get lighter the more action you have because it provides a fluidity to the art as opposed to a real thick line, which isn't conducive to showing movement. But maybe that's just the way that Borges works, which is fine. I mean, it's not bad art by any stretch of the imagination, but there were times where it did pull me out of the story a little bit. It heavily focuses on Wally West and Dick Grayson's friendship, which is probably my favorite friendship in the DCU. Even though Dick is not my favorite Robin and Wally's not my favorite Flash, their friendship is just the best. I love with these two guys how much they care about each other and how much is kind of subtextual with their friendship. I love that it feels like we're sort of getting back to this idea um, of Melinda Zuko being Dick's sister. That's mentioned several times in this issue. Blockbuster's clearly ramping up his efforts to take out Dick Grayson when he blows up his apartment building this time. So yeah, I'm loving what Tom Taylor's doing. And if the reason Borges had to do the art in this issue was because Bruno Redondo was filling in on Superman Son of Kal-El that we got last week, it's hard for me to complain because the art in that issue was so good. I loved it. So, Bruno Redondo can't draw everything, unfortunately. I'd love it if he could. I'd love it if Bruno Redondo could draw Superman Son of Kal-El every month and Nightwing every month. But, the guy's got to sleep sometime. But yeah, this was a fun issue, typical strong Tom Taylor scripting, and love that we're sort of leaning back into a lot of the ideas that we got from Taylor on the first arc in terms of Blockbuster being the main antagonist for the series and learning about Dick's heretofore unknown sister. So yeah, I can't wait to find out more about Melinda Zuko. So what'd you think, Rocky?
Yeah. I can actually say that this issue had Borges art. It's
Wow.
just absolutely gorgeous. I mean, God. Anyways, I'm not even drinking. Can you believe that? But in any event, yeah, this great art, good story again. This is definitely. Um, I like this. Tom Taylor's definitely he's so much fan service. It's almost too much fan service sometimes, but sometimes he often does fan service at the expense of a plodding plot. It moves along at a snail's pace. But this is actually I wish when he does the character work like he does in this issue, I wish the plot would move as fast as it does in this issue because it finally moves. It actually moves a little bit faster than it often does. It's not just conversations. It's actually Wally and Dick. All these characters are so perfect. I love the fact that Blockbuster actually doesn't know that Barbara Gordon is Batgirl and actually kidnaps Barbara Gordon. And I love it's so awesome that Barbara Gordon actually contacts Dick Grayson and Dick and Wally while she's trapped in the van, and she says, "Oh, don't worry about me. I've already picked the lock. I can leave, but you might want to come over here and see who actually wants Dick Grayson dead." And so they switch places, and of course they find out that it's KG Beast, who of course is responsible in Tom King's run. He actually shot Dick Grayson in the head and made him Rick Grayson. And yeah, so there's probably I'm not sure, but I think this is the first time that Nightwing will face KG Beast following him being shot in the head. But maybe I stand to be corrected on that.
No, he in the so Dan Jurgens was writing Nightwing when that happened,
Right.
and Dan Jurgens was the one that wrote all that
Oh, that's
Rick
right.
Grayson stuff. Yeah, and in the last issue before Nightwing crossed over with Joker War,
Yeah.
Dick faced KG Beast again, and sort of after he got his memories back. I
So
actually it might have been during Joker War.
could
So
be.
yeah, this is yeah, but that went really fast because of Joker War. So I'm sure that this confrontation will be better fleshed out with more emotion coming from Tom Taylor.
But I like the interaction between Jay and Irie, like Wally's kids and Nightwing. That was
Yep.
that was just great. If I didn't know better, I would have thought it was scripted by Jeremy Adams. But no, I enjoyed this. This is this basically has it all again because look, if it sounds like I'm complaining about Tom Taylor and I say, well, he got too much fan service there. Look, believe me, I'm happy. I give me some fan. If it's The story is good. If the story's at a snail pace and I got to put up with some great character work, believe me, I'm fine. I'll take it. Uh, every now and then, I think sometimes I get too much of a good thing. I got what I asked for. I got great character work, and then lo and behold, I want the plot to move a little faster. Then I want the plot, then I want more character work, and then the plot slows down. So, you know, look, this is why we can't have nice things. I gotta Tom Taylor, he comes and comes and goes, and you I don't. Anyways, I'm enjoying this, and he's Tom Taylor. There's a reason why DC signed him up. Between Nightwing and Superman, Son of Kal-El, these are the titles that I think a lot of people are looking at, and rightly so, because it's entertaining, and you can't say that Tom Taylor doesn't know these characters, and it shows. It's really good. I would love to see. Uh, a team up, an annual team up between Nightwing and Flash. I hope this is something that they continue to do, and I hope Jeremy Adams has Nightwing over in Flash at some point.
Yeah, I'm ready for my Tom Taylor regular. Although, don't get me wrong, I'm sure Chip Zdarsky is going to do a great job. So maybe not Tom Taylor on Batman, but can I have my Tom Taylor on Superman, but like Clark Kent, Kal-El Superman?
Yeah.
And I also need my Tom Taylor Green Lantern book. And yeah, can he just write the whole DCU? Yeah,
Yeah,
he's killing it right now,
he
100%.
is. Yeah.
Okay, up next we have Teen Titans, we have Titans United #7. This is from writer Kevin Scott, Jose Luis, and Daniel HDR on pencils, Jonas Trinidad and Daniel HDR on inks, Rex Locus on colors, Carlos M. Mangual on letters. So we really, really have been enjoying this Titans United book. It's been absolutely fantastic, both art wise and that being said, the fact that it's not just Jose Luis on art for this last issue, I did feel like this was one of the weaker issues art wise. Not throughout, but at moments it wasn't quite as detailed or as dynamic as it's been in some of the past issues. Narratively, tons of action. I expressed some reservations after the last issue that we find out that the Citadel has sent this invasion fleet. And I'm like, really? You wait until the last page of the next to last issue to give us that? Like, how are they going to wrap this up? Like, how's Kevin Scott going to be able to wrap this up in one issue? But he does a really, really good job of doing it, because it's interesting from a structure standpoint. What he does, it shows that the Titans are the important part of the story. Like, the Citadel could in a lot of ways be any sort of threat. It's not like they, figure out a way to specifically defeat the Citadel, but rather what they do is they rely on the capabilities of each other to solve the problem that's, put in front of them. And it just coincidentally, the problem happens to be the Citadel, but really it didn't matter. What was showcased here was their teamwork, their ability to work together, and their strength is in that teamwork. So I thought, much like this whole entire series, the final issue here showcases what's best about the Titans, which is, they're friends and they have each other's back. So and the art was for the most part really, really great. So what did you think, Rocky? Did
Yeah.
it end satisfyingly for you?
It really did, and one of the things that I really liked, if I was I'm usually a big guy on continuity. Like, I like continuity, and one of the questions I guess I could have is, well, where the hell is the Justice League? Where the hell is Superman and the rest of them? And you know what? I don't care that the rest of the DC universe isn't, because this is Titans United. This is a Titans book, and I'm enjoying the hell out of this. I enjoyed everything about this. I love the Kevin Scott absolutely nails the characterization, especially of Starfire and Blackfire, which to me actually in many ways sort of forms the heart and soul of this story in so many ways. And Jose Luis on the art, just fantastic. I mean, there's a double page spread here, just incredible. Of the Titans out in space, taking on the Citadel, kicking ass and taking names. This is really good. The Citadel underestimating Earth. Blackfire, of course, her true motivations reveal that she wanted to create essentially a sort of like a second outpost or a base in order to distract the Citadel because she knew that the home world of Tamaran wouldn't be able to survive another attack. So she wanted to give the impression that Earth was part of the uh, the the fleet or part of the ally of Tamaran, and so the politics made sense. I mean, the plot made sense. It wasn't. It possessed a lot of verisimilitude. There's that wonderful word again, and it's important because it makes for a good story. Cavan Scott knows what he's doing. He knows these characters. He knows the story. The art's fantastic, and and this has just been one big adrenaline rush from beginning to end. And he knows these characters. You could finish this series, go back and read the classic Marv Wolfman George Perez run, and you'd fit right in. And he managed to throw in new characters like Connor and Red Hood. I mean, come on, this is very well done, very well done. Love the ending, love the love the character work. This is, juxtapose this against alongside Teen Titans Academy. This is what should be 13, 14, 15 issues long. Give us more of this Titans United. DC, sign Cavan Scott to an exclusive and give him his own Titans United comic book, because this is usually one of the best. Like, this is probably one of the best reads of the week this week, in my opinion. I love this. This was really good. There's another one that I really like that we're going to be getting to, but I really enjoyed this one.
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't think Kevin Scott would take an exclusive at DC. So, for those that don't know, he writes a lot of Star Wars books over at Marvel, and he's a huge Star Wars guy. So,
Yeah.
I don't think he'd give up Star Wars, but
I can't blame him.
I would be happy. I would be happy to see that. Yeah, and he's going to be on the show later this month, I should mention.
Right on.
Okay, up next we have Robin's number 5, Being Robin. Tim Seeley's the writer. Baldemar Rivas is the artist. Romulo Fajardo on Jr. on colors. Steve Wan's on letters. Yeah, this is this is interesting. The pieces are starting to come together for Robins. We're getting some more clues, which makes sense because this is issue 5 of 6. There's only one issue to go. So, what are your thoughts here, Rocky?
Honestly, I hate to say this, but I never read much of this issue. I'm sorry, man. I just had too busy a week, and there was this one and another comic which you fortunately did all the wonderful commentary on. That you're gonna have to do the talking on this one. I didn't give it. I didn't read it. Frankly, I didn't
Gotcha.
read it.
Yeah, so Tim Seeley, when he was on last week, him and I talked about this, and specifically the line in here that if you listen to that episode and you're wondering what line I was referring to, and Tim referenced it as well, it's this line that talks about how the relationship between Robins and Batman's goes both ways, right? And in this issue, we get Dick Grayson saying, "We all fell. We aren't just there to catch Batman before he falls. He catches us." And that's really, at the end of the day, what this series is all about, right? Like, it started off with its idea that, hey, are Robins better off? Would the people who have become Robins, would they have been better off if they never became Robins at all? Right. And that's what this initial Robin, this Jenny Wren, that's her her position, right? And how she's trying to, in a way, turn all the former Robins against Batman, kind of pushing that agenda that, hey, all the trauma they've been through, Batman putting kids at risk, which is something Tim Seeley talked about in our interview that he's always kind of struggled with. Part of the reason he wrote this story. But at the end of the day, what we're seeing here is the connections between each of the Robins who have their own unique relationship with Bruce Wayne, and their connections to each other are really what's important. So that idea that, hey, we aren't just here to catch Batman and to be sure that he doesn't go too dark, which a lot of people have speculated that's the purpose of Robins over the years. But it goes the other way too, right? Batman is there to protect his Robins. So it really interesting. We saw last issue that this this Jenny Red had Wren had hacked into the Bat computer and had taken all the files that Batman had for each of the individual Robin's gauntlets, which was kind of like their final challenge that they had to complete before they could become Robin. And in a way, she weaponized that. She turned it into like augmented reality or virtual reality. And when this issue starts, we see that the Robins are sort of trapped in the sort of these fantasy worlds, right? Like here's supposedly who Bruce thinks that they might have become had they not become Robins. That's at least that's the speculation, or that's what Jenny Wren wants them to. Because supposedly she gained all this knowledge from, or all this information from the Bat computer. So we see Damian Wayne, and he's living as a monk and trying to find inner peace, being the grandson of Ra's al Ghul and trained as an assassin. We see Stephanie Brown, and she's the leader of the Teen Titans. We see um, Jason Todd, and he's this he's this race car driver who's driving around and winning races so he can turn around and give the money to a charity that he started in the name of his mother, the Catherine Todd Recovery Center. And Dick Grayson, this is the one that's most intriguing to me, is an agent of Spiral. That whole Grayson series that Tim Seeley and Tom King wrote, which is some people either, apparently from what Tim told me, people either really, really love it and think it's like their favorite Dick Grayson thing ever. That's kind of where I'm at. Or they absolutely hate it, Dick Grayson as this super spy. But what's so interesting is in the beginning, or in kind of the beginning to middle part of the issue, we see all these different roles that, again, supposedly Bruce Wayne thinks this is how these characters' lives would have played out had they not become the Robins. But in the end, it all goes bad for all of them. Like Damian can't find peace, and he ends up going back and becoming an assassin. Dick Grayson becomes his mind becomes corrupted by the Hypnos implants that that the Spiral uses, and he kind of becomes a vegetable. Jason Todd can no longer win races as he gets older and his skills start to diminish, and he goes back to stealing cars and ends up in jail. And Stephanie Brown ends up not necessarily betraying, but her leadership style causes a rift between the Justice League and the Teen Titans, and then the Titans stop trusting her, so she kind of loses her spot as the leader of the Titans. So each of these characters kind of lose what's most important to them. We know Stephanie Brown really always wants to be respected as a hero. Damian wants to find peace with his past. Obviously, Dick Grayson is as the first Robin, his whole idea is, am I good enough intellectually to be a great detective like Batman? He becomes a vegetable. Jason Todd goes back to a life of crime. So yeah, really fascinating ideas that Tim Seeley has given us here in this Robin series. And I feel like a lot of it's flying under the radar because I don't know that many people are paying attention. Everybody voted for it because it was Robin's. It was like the Batman property in this red round Robin thing that they set up. But then when it wasn't just a bunch of Robins hanging out in this kind of fun, lighthearted superhero story, when it actually had some interesting themes and whatnot, everybody just seemed to like forget about it. So it's been way better than I thought. I mean, I wasn't necessarily, I wouldn't go so far as to say upset. I was disappointed that it won. It was like the one I would have pointed to on the list that I wanted the least, almost. Like it was definitely bottom three. But again, showing the talent of Tim Seeley, he's done something so subversive with this idea of, hey, what does it mean to be a Robin? Are these characters better off for having been Robins? And yeah, I just keep going back to that line, from Dick Grayson. We aren't just there to catch Batman before he falls; he catches us. And that's all proven out by supposedly what would have happened to these characters had they not become Robins. Their lives all would have ended pretty tragically. So the Baldemar Rivas art is tone perfect for the story that Seeley's telling. It's a little animated style. It's a little cartoony, but it keeps it from getting too dark. And I think the color work also does that as well, from Romulo Fajardo Jr., who's a very talented color artist. So it makes a lot of sense. So yeah, I do recommend this. It's totally exceeding my expectations. So all right. Let's go ahead and move on. Next book we're going to talk about is going to be a big one this week. A lot of people are picking it up, a bunch of different covers. It's Batman Superman World's Finest. Mark Waid with his return to DC on a regular title. He did write a couple of stories in some recent anthologies, but here he is, monthly ongoing. Chapter 1, Doomed, written by Mark Waid. Dan Mora is the artist. Tamara Bonvillain on colors. Aditya Bidikar handles the letters. And this is oversized. I think we had 36 pages of story. So, what do you think of this, Rocky?
Well, look, I love Mark Waid, and I wanted when he came, when rumors are have it that were floating around that he might come back to DC. I was hoping that he'd write Superman. I still want him to write Superman. Uh, and I think this World's Finest issue #1 just proves my point. I love this. I mean, he understands Superman. He understands Batman, and I like the choices that he makes in this issue. Mark Waid, he very intentionally chooses to ground this story with sort of like it's Batman and Robin, it's Batman, it's Bruce Wayne and Dick Grayson, with having an adventure in Metropolis, Poison Ivy, Metallo, and he nails the characters. Lois Lane, Jimmy Olsen. This is clearly in the day and age where Lois doesn't know Clark Kent is Superman. This is a classic Superman story. That's what it feels like to me. And even though obviously this is World's Finest, it's Batman and Robin in it as well, but he also understands that Batman and Robin, they're friends with Superman, and the camaraderie and the friendship, and this feels right. This just feels right to me. This is really good writing. This is exactly, I mean, uh, thank you, Mark Waid. I know that he's as a human being, as a personality, he's had his ups and downs on media, and sometimes he makes the news for, in the past he's made the news for all the wrong reasons, but I don't care. I'm talking about Mark Waid, the writer. Mark Waid, the man who loves Superman. Nobody. Mark Waid has forgotten more about Superman than I'll ever know, and I've been reading Superman for 43 years. Okay, the guy's just an encyclopedic knowledge of Superman, and I always love listening to interviews of Mark Waid when he's just talking Superman, because I always learn something that I didn't know before. And this is just fantastic, and the art. I mean, good Lord, who's the yeah, Dan Mora. Thank you. Good Lord, great art. I love Poison Ivy here. I the way that Superman comes to the aid of Batman and Robin, and then Batman and Robin trying to come to the aid of Superman as they're bad, because he's all of a sudden Metallo shows up, and of course there's somebody behind the scenes that's causing all the havoc that ultimately shows up at the end, and this we ultimately we know that the Doom Patrol is gonna is gonna get involved. And I love, it's funny, like the Doom Patrol. I remember the Doom Patrol back in the day. They were like DC's version of the X-Men, but they weren't as popular. But they're so weird. And of course, I mean, in fact, the TV show is probably more popular than the comic book ever was, quite frankly. But I love it. He all these eclectic array of characters from DC lore, and he's having fun. He's having fun with it. And uh, like I said, I I don't want to ruin anything, but I think if you're a Superman fan, anybody who's anybody, please, I don't want somebody not to pick this up just because Mark Waid wrote it. I know there's a narrative out there. Just put that aside and just read this. This is a great Superman story as far as I'm concerned. And it happens to have Batman and Robin in it, and a whole slew of really cool villains, and it's kick-ass, and it's all in one issue, and there's more to come. So, what do you think?
Well, I mean, I don't even necessarily think there's much controversy about Mark Waid. Like I know that there, some people are like, oh, he supposedly got a book blackballed. That's not actually true. And if you
Yeah.
go and see that the fact that the court case got thrown out, I mean, a judge
Yeah.
agreed. So,
No,
I
I,
mean,
I, I agree with you. I'm just saying, it just bothers me. It's unfortunate because he's one of my favorite writers. And he always has been, and I don't like, I just don't
well, I
like
think
when people.
the only people that still think that he did something wrong are people that don't buy these books anyway. So I don't think we need to give it any lip service. But yeah, I mean, I agree with you. He should be writing Superman. You know, as much as we're enjoying what Philip Kennedy Johnson's doing, it's past time for Mark Waid to be writing Superman. Um, if I have any complaints about the book, like why? And again, I understand the economics of it. You know, this is called Batman Superman. So back in the day, when the first Batman Superman book came out, it wasn't even called Batman Superman. It was called Superman Batman, right? Superman was first. And that was back in the 2000s, the Ed McGuinness, and then uh, Michael Turner illustrated book. And then when it came back later in the New 52, yeah, Batman got first billing because then it's going to be on the rack in the store next to the Batman books. And same thing here. It's Batman, Superman, World's Finest. Now, the World's Finest that Rocky and I grew up reading was just called World's Finest. It didn't have Superman in the title. It didn't have Batman in the title, and it was just World's Finest, and it was great. And you know, previous to them being in it, it was kind of an anthology series at times. And this does have a little bit of an anthology feel. It feels very classic World's Finest because it's not just Batman and Superman teaming up. As Rocky said, you get the Doom Patrol. It's a big story. The fact that Superman gets injected with red kryptonite and his body's constantly shifting and changing, and it's a big story. Superman's powers are out of control. He's causing damage. He's more than two non-superpowered heroes such as Batman and Robin can handle. So great to see the Doom Patrol show up. Fantastic art, like you said, from Dan Mora. I can't wait to see where this goes. And yeah, I like you said, Mark Waid gets Superman. He knows who he is, even more so than he does Batman. Although I think his scripting on Batman, his characterization for Batman, is done very, very well, and I really, really like his Robin. He
Yeah.
gives him a real lighthearted feel. So yeah, this is fantastic. I can't, you know, I can't. I've already read it. I can't wait to hold it in my hands. I ordered the Jerry Seinfeld. I'm actually a pretty big Seinfeld fan. I ordered the Jerry Seinfeld cover. So for those that aren't familiar, Jerry Seinfeld used to have this show. I think it eventually ended up on Netflix called Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee, where he'd go and have an exotic car, whether it was loaned to him or he owned it or whatever, and he'd go pick up another comedian, and they would drive somewhere to get coffee or breakfast or a muffin or whatever, and they would talk on the way, like an interview style show. And so for this, he's driving Superman and Batman, and he's driving the Batmobile from the 1966 Batman TV show. So I mean, I couldn't. There it is, right there. I couldn't not. I mean, how do you not buy that cover? Like
Yeah.
that's absolutely fantastic.
That's
So
awesome.
yeah, I expect this to be a big hit. I don't know that it'll ever be
Yeah.
worth a ton of money because it's going to sell. I would be really surprised if this isn't the number one selling book for
Yeah.
the month of March
And
2022.
Seinfeld always had that statue of Superman behind
Yeah,
on the
Seinfeld's a
set.
big yeah.
Yeah.
He's Jerry Seinfeld's a huge Superman fan as well. So
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
all right, one more book to talk about on the spotlight. It's Wonder Woman Evolution. We're up to issue number 5 from writer Stephanie Phillips. Mike Hawthorne handles the pencils. Adriano D. Benedetto on inks. Joe DeBelair on colors. Tom Napolitano on letters. So this is interesting. It starts off and we get a picture of these scientists who are in this like futuristic, very clean, computerized environment. And they're talking about initiating the Titan. The implication here is that everything that's going on in Wonder Woman's head, as far as this trial and whatnot, everything she's experiencing, like we weren't sure. These beings seem powerful. They grabbed her on Earth, but they've seemed to be able to like manifest illusions, or she's seen a lot of things that maybe are not reality. Maybe they're real, maybe they're not. We're not sure. trying to stand up for humanity. She had to fight the Justice League at the end of last issue because the Justice League were ready to sacrifice a few lives to save all the lives of Earth, or one life, I should say. This one alien who's labeled a traitor, but sees herself as the leader of a rebellion, and she's a political prisoner on Earth, and they want her turned over, and the aliens are coming to Earth saying, "You don't turn her over, we're going to attack your whole planet." Wonder Woman was on the side of the one as opposed to the side of the many. But all of that, all of it, the whole entire story and what's going on is all thrown into question. None of it may be real. It may all be some sort of computerized simulation. And obviously, what we don't know is she captured? Why is this happening? But as sort of a clue at the end, or an event at the end, to kind of really make sure that people are catching that sort of part of the story, Donna Troy shows up, a very different looking Donna Troy with like this buzz cut. And she says, when Diana says, I can fight them, Donna Troy says, no, you can't, because none of this is real. So is this Donna Troy finding a way to sneak into the simulation? Is it Diana's own mind that's trying to wake her up from the simulation? Is this just another trick where this is part of whatever the Titan program is that's been initiated? No idea on any of that, but very interesting and intriguing. And again, as I've said throughout, the art by Mike Hawthorne, Wonder Woman has never looked so buff and so dangerous than she has in this series. So I'm still enjoying it. It's definitely picked up. Started off a little slow, but it's definitely picked up the last couple issues. What are your thoughts, Rocky?
Well, I wish, you said that it's interesting, and it is interesting. I just wish it was a little bit more interesting. And it's it's just so odd to me because that really, I mean, it really threw me for a loop when, like, the opening sequence, that opening sequence with that lab, and there's Project Titan, and it almost reminded me of that one horror show. I can't remember what the name of it is, The Cabin, where it's like the cabin is nothing but a construct by a bunch of scientists and guys in labs, and they're all the horrors that are inflicted upon these kids that are trapped in the cabin. It's all one giant charade, and it's all, it's all just in like a laboratory almost, and these kids are just sort of like an experiment, and all these horror things show up, and it's all part of these guys in lab coats are just making them go through hell, and they're making bets on who's going to win. And I'm thinking to myself, here we got a couple of scientists here. Are they putting Wonder Woman? Are we even talking about gods? Maybe there aren't even gods. Are these gods just like machines, and these couple scientists are putting Wonder Woman through the ringer? Like, it just seems like a massive amount of potential misdirection that's gone on here. So now, if it isn't misdirection, or if it is misdirection, dare I say, it hasn't really pulled me in. Like, it's not a misdirection where I'm going, wow, this is cool. Because it's like, okay, well, Donna Troy shows up and then it says, well, none of this is real. Well, to be honest with you, I've kind of concluded that none of it's real almost from the second issue. So I don't, Donna, I don't think, does Wonder Woman really need to be told that none of this is real? I mean, I don't know. It just seems odd to me. Silver Swan got killed in the second issue, or hurt, and then she ended up being really hurt. And then Wonder Woman was in Nuremberg, and then she was fighting the Justice League, and now she's fighting her own Amazons, and her own Amazons want to put her to death. Well, that's not real. I mean, obviously that's not real. So I don't know where this is going. Like, the central narrative about humanity judging, God's judging humanity, that's kind of been, well, it's been touched upon, and some really interesting potential plot points here. I really love the Nuremberg idea, the fighting the Justice League with the dilemma that you mentioned with the one woman from another alien race. So really, Stephanie Phillips has done a good job touching upon these themes that are very interesting, but then pulls away because it's not real. and then puts, and it's like, no, I want to stay. I want to see how that resolves because that's so interesting. But she pulls Wonder Woman out of the scene and then throws her in another one and then pulls her out of that too. So I I know that Stephanie Phillips has, I, obviously had, she's taken us in a direction here, but I'm not really sure. I'm gonna like where it lands. But I am intrigued. But I'm a little frustrated. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't a little bit frustrated. It's sort of like you're handing me candy and then you pull it away at the last minute. It's like, ah, you know. But anyways, I'm definitely curious to see how this is going to end. I really hope the landing sticks because we gotta, we do have 3 issues left, so we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay, a few other books are out today that we didn't talk about. So let me give you a rundown on those, and then I'll talk about some of the trades as well. So Looney Tunes number 265 is out. DC Horror Presents Soul Plumber number 6 is also out, and then Refrigerator Full of Heads number 5. Those are out on stands as well. And then we have the JLA Avengers Hero Initiative edition. I don't know where you've been if you haven't heard about this. There were only 7,000 copies made. They probably could have sold, I don't know, maybe 10 times that amount. I don't think it's out of the question. I think they could have sold 70,000 of these. They've been going online on eBay for like 200, 250 bucks. Unfortunately, with the pandemic and, it's Marvel and DC, so there's a lot of legal stuff to jump through with the pandemic and the paper shortages and trying to get a book like this with all the logistics printed. They had to put a cap on it of only 7,000. And a lot of people were disappointed. It is to raise money for the Hero Initiative, which is the charity that George Perez helped found, which raises money to help out comic creators in need. They could have raised a lot more. What a lot of shops are doing is they're raffling them off, or they're putting them on eBay, and all the profits go to Hero Initiative to try to raise more money because it is a $29.99 cover price. I tried to order one. I'm probably not even get my hands on one, but if you can get your hands on one, I would encourage you to make sure that you're not just paying $200 and it's some greedy shop owner who's pocketing that money, but the money's going to the Hero Initiative. So that's out today, or the 16th, actually. So tomorrow. There's also Batman Volume 5 Fear State hardcover. So that obviously collects Fear State from James Tynan's run. We have the Absolute Swamp Thing by Alan Moore Volume 3 hardcover. Superman Batman Omnibus Volume 2, which collects a lot of the run of the most recently concluded, or not, sorry, not the most recently concluded, but that Superman Batman that I was talking about from the early 2000s. Also, the Batman's Grave, the complete collection. That's the Kurt Busiek Batman story. And then there's also Batman Arkham Penguin trade paperback. So Batman's Grave is Warren Ellis, not Kurt Busiek.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Penguin Arkham trade paperback. I'm not sure why they threw Arkham in there. I mean, there is one story where he's in Arkham, but it reprints his first ever appearance and then some of his greatest stories. In my mind, the whole reason that that Penguin collection is coming out is because the Penguin's in the Batman movie that's in theaters right now. So that's got to be the reason that they decided to print it. So that's going to do it. That's all the DC stuff that's out there this week. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you get a chance to check out some of the great issues that we talked about. Yeah, I mean, I thought that the World's Finest was done really, really well. But I think if I had to give my nod to like a favorite DC book of the week, I think I got to give it to Nightwing. I loved that portrayal of the friendship between Wally West and Dick Grayson. You mentioned there was a couple that you really like, Rocky. So
Yeah.
what
Well,
gets your nod?
certainly the 3 that I really like are World's Finest, Titans United, and Nightwing. They were all really good, and it's like, honestly, it's like choosing between 3 flavors of ice cream. I mean, look, I love vanilla, I love chocolate, I love Napoleon. I mean, come on, what's not to love? I mean, they're all good. It's depending on what mood you're in. I mean, but they're excellent. It's just like reading this a wonderful nostalgic feeling of comics of old, feeling new and vibrant and fresh and nostalgic all at the same time. World's Finest, Titans United, Nightwing, just wonderful comics. It's really good. And I mean, in fairness too, I mean, the other ones, my apologies to Tim Seeley. I should have read Robin's 5, but I just unfortunately I couldn't quite read them all. But no, again, I think DC deserves more love. They got some good comics here, and I don't know what the hell's going on with the sales woes, but bloody hell, I wish they'd reveal the sales data a little bit, because I think that DC sales should be higher than what the top 50 would suggest. But I guess I'm an outlier. But I guess, so be it.
Yeah, I always wonder about the sales because we don't get any sales numbers, and I hear whenever I talk to somebody over at DC, they tell me the sales are, really 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 great, but I mean they can only go by what their higher ups are telling them. Maybe
Yeah.
they're I don't know. I don't know. Whenever you look at anything on like Amazon, and I know that's not a great metric, but what else do we have to judge DC? But on Wednesday, if
Yeah.
you look at what the best-selling titles of the week are, and again these are digital, but oftentimes it's Superman, Son of Kal-El, or Batman, or whatever. It's like DC's beating Marvel um, consistently on there, but maybe it's not a good representation. I don't know.
Yeah.
But either way, excited for what the future of DC holds. And on that note, in addition to the spotlight on War for Earth 3 and Trial of the Amazons, so we can cover all the DC books that came out this week, there also will be an episode released today, audio only, with Joshua Williamson. I got a chance to chat with Josh about the upcoming Dark Crisis. We talked about Shadow War. We talked about his recent Batman run. We talked about Robin. We talked about Deathstroke. Yeah, we talked about it all. We talked about the fact that he was about to leave. He had almost had one foot out the door at DC. He was going to finish his Flash run and leave because he just didn't feel like there was really much for him there in the 5G era. And then obviously we know that all got kind of flipped on its head
Yeah.
when Dan Didio left. And yeah, now I would say there's not a writer that's more important to DC Comics right now than Joshua Williamson. So
Yeah.
uh, encourage you guys to all go check out that conversation. And going on the other side of the street, talking Marvel. I recently had a chance to chat with Kelly Thompson, one of my favorite writers, best writer of the year for 2022. She
Yeah.
was my pick, and she's absolutely killing it on Black Widow and Captain Marvel,
Yeah.
and on
Loving
her
Captain
Substack.
Marvel. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just fantastic. So I got a chance to chat with her. That episode went up yesterday on Monday, so I encourage you to go check out that as well. And yeah, a couple more big interviews coming for you before the end of the month as well. And then I'll be at WonderCon at the beginning of April. I don't know. Conventions are just coming back. It's hard to say what it's going to be like there. They haven't hardly announced anything. I think they're still kind of scrambling. But yeah, I'll do my best to bring you
Yeah.
guys some great convention coverage.
Well,
So,
I want to.
any episodes you have coming up that you want to mention, Rocky?
Well, actually, this weekend, I fly out to Toronto tomorrow. I'm meeting Dark Knight Nation, Trevor Lankevich of Area 51 Helix Project. Him and I are both going to be at the Toronto Comic Con this coming weekend, March 18th to the 20th. And we intend to have quite an enjoyable week. And yeah, we're going to see what it brings. And who knows, we might do a couple of impromptu streams from the con. Maybe not. And if we don't, it's probably because we're doing something we shouldn't do, like probably or drinking too much of what we shouldn't be drinking. But we intend to have a lot of fun. And I was going to tell you that I fully intend to catch up on. There's probably there's those two interviews you mentioned that you did with Joshua Williamson and Kelly Thompson. I'll be listening to those. I'll be downloading those and listening to those on the flight there. So I'm looking forward to that. And yeah, and I'm gonna play it by ear. So I'm glad I'm glad I managed to do all these these reviews with you tonight, because now I got to run and pack and get ready to leave tomorrow morning. So it's going to be an exciting week.
All right. So if you're going to be at the convention, be sure you hit up Rocky, hit up Trevor. Yeah, if you're at the Toronto Comic Con, hit them up on social media. Let them know. We always love to meet up with listeners and
For sure.
and meet people in person. So anyway, that's going to do it for this episode, everybody. Appreciate you listening as always, and we'll talk to you next time.
See you later.